everyone, welcome back to Homestead Corner. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about when prepping isn't enough. Many people are stocking food to the rafters in their house. Rice, beans, ammo, all sorts of stuff. As much as they can get in there. They're really putting it away. But eventually, no matter how much you have put away, you're going to run out. If we have a long-term situation, you are going to run out of supplies. You could have 2 years of food, and then what? Then what do? We need to look more at being sustainable and being able to be self-reliant and rely on ourselves, not anything else. Produce stuff ourselves. When the grocery stores run out of food, or we no longer have enough money to buy the food that is at the grocery store, we need to be self-reliant. We really need to rely on ourselves and nobody else. And self-reliance is just when we take this into our own hands. We're not reliant upon any kind of money coming in or someone else giving us food or buying it from somebody else. Us being able to produce it and take care of ourselves. If there's nobody else out there, you can still take care of yourself and your family. This can only happen when we have a good combination of skills, supplies, habits, and we need to put these all into action together, and it's going to make a difference on having a good pantry and being a real survivor. Self-reliance really is the only thing that's going to save you when it comes down to medical care is not accessible for the average person because it's too expensive. There's not enough help there. Things of that nature. When the stores close, when the banks close up, and when electricity and heat becomes so expensive that the average person can no longer afford it. These are some of the situations that can happen, have happened in other places in the world, and we need to really start thinking about this. It can happen here, and it probably will happen here. Prepping can be quite costly. Over time, you're buying and buying and buying. But self-reliance is more learning about those skills, learning to put those skills into action, and collecting a few tools to help you do that. And most importantly, putting those skills into action before you need to, and you have no other choice. If we wait and don't start practicing a lot of these skills and habits now, it could be a deadly mistake for many people. Just because it looks easy to plant a garden and have a bunch of food grow, it isn't always that easy. And just because you have a gun and some ammunition, it doesn't make hunting easy. Water is one of the most important things that we need to focus on. I think it is super important. There's no reason you can't put out rain barrels or whatever and start collecting water. I know some places don't really allow that, but if it's not right out front of the building, they might not see it. And it's, you have to be able to collect water, find local sources of water. If you're dependent on a filter system like a Berkey or something like that, you want to make sure you have a nice, huge stockpile of water filters. I think that is super important, not only having the system, but get all those extra filters that you can. Water is a necessity. We have to have it. Another thing is growing and foraging for food. Don't wait, start planning today. If you have a small yard, chickens and rabbits are very easy to raise. They really are. They're not that difficult. They're not super noisy. You don't have to have a rooster if you don't plan on making chicks and things like that. So you definitely, if you just want them for eggs, that is a great way to go. If you have a rooster, I think that's a good idea. If you could have one, they can be a little noisy, but if you could get a rooster, that way you can continue to produce chickens and you have not only got fresh eggs, but you've got a source of meat as well. I think that is really important. And also gardening, get your seeds, start planting a garden. I know everyone doesn't have a backyard. If you have a porch or a patio or a lanai, or everybody calls it something different, you take some pots and put them out there. You can grow a lot of fruits and vegetables right in a pot. Container gardening is really simple, it's easy to do, and you can do it right on a deck or a porch or whatever you have. If you've got just a little place, you can grow quite a bit of food out there. And even if you don't have a porch, you could even put a few things in the window, some pots, grow some herbs. Herbs can be done right inside in the window, some lettuce, things like that. A little bit is better than nothing. And I think it's important to just get right started. Don't wait, get started on these things. Take walks out in the woods. If you're able to go out into the woods, take a walk out there. See if you can find wild berries or something like that. Those things can be a wonderful treat in the summertime. And a lot of times you can find them just in the woods. Another thing, if you don't already preserve food, learning to preserve food is an amazing skill to have. A lot of us cannot grow food year round, especially in the northern parts of the country, and we live in colder climates, so we have a very short growing season. And if you live in an area where you can grow year round, that is wonderful, but not everybody can. So learning to preserve those foods is a huge skill, whether it's canning, drying, whatever, pickling, fermenting, all of that stuff. Learn all of it. That way you have a barrage of things. Many of these techniques are very basic, and you can learn them and you can do them, and it could save your life in a long-term situation. Another thing that I think is super important is changing our perspective on money. What is necessary? What do we have to have? Some people have to go to Starbucks. They think they have to have that special coffee every day on their way to work. That $5 a day adds up to a huge savings. Do you have to get your nails done, have cable TV? What are the necessities? If we look at our money differently on what is absolutely necessary, we can make a lot of changes in our lives. And that brings me to the next one, is reducing our dependency on utilities. If we are not so dependent on the water company or the gas company, the electric company, if we're able to reduce what we need from them, it is going to be easier for all of us, and those are huge money savers. We look at it like necessities because that is how we've lived in America. That's how it is. Everybody has everything pretty much. But if we reduce even, go to a smaller data plan, maybe we can cut that down. I know we have 3 cell phones in our home. My oldest child has a phone, and we only have 1 gigabyte of data. When we're home, we all hook up to the Wi-Fi. We don't use any data when we're home. It's only when we're out, and we're very limited on it because it is too costly for us. So that's something that we look at. If we can hook up to Wi-Fi, great. But if we can't, we are very selective on using our phones when we're out. Another thing we can reduce is our cooking dependency on gas and electricity and things like that. Get a fire pit for the backyard. Learn how to cook on a fire. I think that is so important. If we're in a long-term situation, you are going to need to know how to cook on a fire. And it's a little bit different. It's hotter. You need a little bit different cookware. If you've got flimsy cookware, it's probably going to burn up. If you can get a couple cast iron pans at a yard sale, grab them. If you can get them cheap, get them. They will come in so handy if you've got to cook on a fire. And we cook on the fire all summer long. Most nights we cook outside on the fire. Not only does it help us with skills and stuff, it also saves us a ton of money on electricity, so we don't have to run the stove, and it doesn't heat up the house in the summer because we don't use air conditioners either. So it's not super hot here, but we usually have a few weeks that a lot of people run air conditioners, but we try not to use them because it's expensive on the electricity, and we try to reduce that as much as we can. Another thing to really help you be more self-reliant, I think, is first aid. Learning first aid. Take a course, buy some books, watch some videos, whatever it is, learn some first aid. Learn how to use herbs and things like that. I think that's important. If we're not able to go to the doctors, medical care in some places is almost non-existent for the average person. You know, if we have to rely strictly on ourselves, it is so important that we can do it naturally with herbs or whatever we can find. That's another thing to do. And being self-reliant, and you won't have to worry. And the last thing to really help you is personal defense. I know this is a big stickler for a lot of people. They don't want to own a gun. They don't own a gun. They don't want to hurt anybody. But if you have saved all this stuff, you've prepped all these things, you've collected all this stuff, done all this work, and spent all this money, if you cannot defend your preps, you might as well not have them. You're just using them until someone stronger and more equipped than you comes to take them. I think it is so important to be able to defend your stuff, yourself, your family, your home, everything. You need to be able to defend your stuff because someone out there is stronger than you and more prepared than you. So I know this is a hard one for a lot of people and they don't like it, but we need to do these things. If you're going to survive, you need to be prepared to protect yourself and your home. And you could do a lot of things to help protect your home: fences, alarms, tripwires, things like that, to help you know when someone is around. And these are just a few things that I thought were really important to help us all be more self-reliant. We need to rely on ourselves. We need to be prepared that, if the government totally drops and keels over like it has in other countries, we need to be prepared for that. We need to be ready. And if we're already practicing a lot of this stuff and doing it every day, we're going to be just fine if you are already doing it. And that's it for today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.